glad to be here with all of you. Welcome to the episode 6 of my Facebook Live session series on my interpretation of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written by Sven Covey. Once again, my gratitude to all of you for joining today and your support. For those who are joining us for the first time, you can see all the previous episodes in the video section of this page. And we would also be doing a quick review at the beginning of today's episode on what all we have covered till now. Starting with a quick background on me first. So, my name is Rashie Sinha, and I am a business consultant, coach, and trainer. I started my corporate journey 2 decades ago, and over the years have worked with multiple organizations where revenue generation was a key highlight of my KRA. I have a deep experience in launching new business verticals and products, which helped me with the right exposure on business growth strategy, and it is my core strength. I'm not a certified or trained trainer, but a trainer through experience. My corporate roles and the nature of my work made coaching and training an extension of my profile, and I soon realized that I'm a natural at being a coach and trainer. Now, I work towards building growth for my clients and work with multiple mid-sized businesses and startups to help them define and structure new revenue generating streams or help them tweak their current business working to create fast-paced growth. To know more, you could head to my LinkedIn profile, which details the various profiles that I have worked at over the years. I'm also asked, why should we read this book? As we go along the various habits, it will become clear to you on its own. In fact, I believe this book has a very important hand in my personal growth too. Both as a professional and in my personal life. And I have gone back to this book multiple times in past, and each time I had a new takeaway. Hence, I highly recommend that you make notes through the series and also read the book if you can. And for those who like collecting books, this is a must-have in your bookshelf. So, here is the structure of the series. The series is spread over 9 episodes, and this is how it looks. We started with the introduction, and then we divided the episodes into various habits, and today we would be talking about habit number 5. Also, by end of each episode, there will be a take action point or a task to do which you would need to work on before the next episode. Hence, as I mentioned earlier, I highly recommend that you sit with a pen and notebook to take notes and maintain a journal. For those who are regular with the series, hope you did do the task of last week, which was to plot your actions and behavior in the quadrants of win-win, win-lose, lose-win, and lose-lose. At the beginning of last episode, I had shared that it is my most favorite habit. That is the one we covered the last week, habit number 4, which was think win-win, is my most favorite habit. And in that excitement to share the details, I missed mentioning that we are now past the halfway mark in the series. In fact, the last episode was right in the middle of the 2 halves. So congratulations to all of you who have been with the series from the beginning. So now here is a quick recap of what we have covered in the previous episodes. This diagram is the seed to understanding how habits pan out and create an impact. We humans by nature are independent, and as an interdependent person, sorry, as humans by nature, we are interdependent. Independence is the prerequisite to being interdependent. So, yes, we as humans are by nature are interdependent, and as an interdependent person, I have the opportunity to share myself deeply and meaningfully with others, and I have the access to the vast resource and the potential of other human beings. The 7 habits makes us truly interdependent. So the habit 1 begins with creating the principles of personal vision. While working on these habits, we need to stand apart from ourselves. This means look at yourself as a separate person. I know it can be difficult to do for some. However, with practice, this comes to you. And if you have missed the earlier episodes, I would recommend that go back to the episode where I speak about habit number 1, and I do take you through this particular process. In habit 2, we understood the principles of personal leadership. It is important to know that leadership and management are two different things. A lot of times we tend to confuse one with the other. So, leadership is what are the things I wish to accomplish, and management is how can I best accomplish the things which have been identified. So, till we do not define what we want to achieve or where we want to go, management doesn't come into play. In habit 3, we understood the principles of personal management. With habit 4, we learned the beginning of public victory and started it with habit number 4, think win-win. This is interpersonal leadership where we lead not just ourselves but also the people we interact with on a path of benefit. Work on areas and situations in a manner that it turns out to be mutually beneficial. So, in essence, if we say habit 1 said, you are the creator. Habit 2 is the first creation, which is the blueprint. Whatever we do, we tend to create it either in our head, and we took the example of an architect who build a blueprint first before they actually physically construct the building. So habit 2 is the first creation, the blueprint. Habit 3 is management, that is second creation. These 3 habits is the crux of the private victory, where we go inside out. We talk about making ourselves better first. With habit 4, we entered the realm of public victory. I am also going to revisit few terms here which we will be using even during the course of this episode. So certain terms which are important to revisit are paradigm and paradigm shift. We understand that paradigm is about a point of view, and paradigm can shift because when we are able to see a bigger picture, a more holistic picture, then we can think or see more things at a time. It's same as I see one red flower in a bouquet and the person on the other side maybe can see 5. We both are right. It's just about our point of view. Paradigm can change, but principles don't. They are core philosophy which define being a human being. Things like sincerity, integrity, honesty, they don't change. So principles remain constant. Then another term is circle of influence and circle of concern. It is suggested and advise that we work in the circle of influence, because that is what is in our control. Circle of concern can have an impact on us. However, we have no control over that. For example, I do not have control on your mood, but I do have control how I react to the mood you are in. So my reaction is my circle of influence, and my environment is have an impact on me, which is in circle of concern, but I cannot do much about it. So the best way to do is try and expand my circle of influence, so that there are more things and situations in my control. And another term which we learned in the last episode was deposits in the emotional bank account. Like a normal bank account where you can withdraw money only when you make a deposit, the emotional bank account also works in the same fashion. Until unless you make a deposit in your relation with another person, you should not be withdrawing from that. And if you do, that depletes the trust. We also learned the various type and ways in which we can increase the deposit in the emotional bank account. So before we move ahead, here is another bit of share for all of you. I have created a group within the Facebook page through which you are seeing this. This group is exclusively for people who are looking to create a lasting impact in their life through these habits. So I'm sharing the link to join the group in the chat over here. So please feel free to join the group. And so before we move away, so here I go, just posting it as a comment so that all of you will have access to the group. Feel free to join us, like I said, and you can ask me questions over here, clear your doubts too, and I'll be happy to help you through the entire process of working towards building a better life by working on the 7 habits. So moving on, I need to start the presentation again. So here I go. So moving on, these are the 7 habits which are to be understood. And today we would be speaking about habit number 5, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood. In fact, I'm a big fan of the way this book opens up and how each habit is a seat or stepping stone to move ahead to the next habit. And I believe you would have got a good inkling of that over the episodes and also through the recap we did today. So the key word in the entire set till now is the word habit. Though we have covered it in the previous episodes, I think it is important we understand and revisit the definition of habit as the author shares in the book. So habit is defined as an intersection of knowledge, skill, and desires. With the right habit, we learn to be productive and effective, and the right effectiveness is achieved by the support of all those who are around us. So with the last episode, which is the previous episode, we began our journey into the domain of public victory. Today, we discuss the next habit, habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Till now, we were working on ourselves, that is inside out, and now we work on a relation with the environment. To understand the habit and to implement it better, it is important to understand the key drivers behind it. Hence, I introduce you to principles of empathic communication. So, what does empathic communication mean? Let me take you through a story. So, imagine you have some issue with your eyes and you want to visit a eye clinic. You go to an optometrist, and instead of testing your eyes and understanding what you are going through, the person hands his glasses to you and says, try this on. You do that, it doesn't work for you. And he's like, how is that possible? These glasses worked for me very well. They served me very well. How can you say that they are not working for you? Something is wrong with you, or you don't know how to appreciate things, and just gets upset when you say that these glasses are of no use to me. To the extent that goes on to say that how ungrateful of you, I removed my own glasses which have worked for me for so many years, and I gave them to you because you have the same problem, and you're saying it doesn't work for you. How ungrateful, how rude. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, we all at some point communicate like this. And this is what this habit talks about. As human being, communication is the key to all our interaction. I'm currently speaking with you and you are listening, right? This is a type of communication which is happening as of now. And here, while I'm speaking with you, I'm talking about a book I have read, written by a great author. Reading and writing are also forms of communication. These are actually the four basic types of communication, and we indulge in any one of them most times. Whenever we are indulging in any type of communication and doing it well, we are directly impacting our effectiveness. This is the power of this skill, and hence it is called the most important and critical life skill. So that is what we are going to understand better today. So when we speak about seek first to understand, it involves a deep shift. Actually, when I mentioned the habit's name is a bit longer. It says seek first to understand and then to be understood. So first we would talk about the first part of the habit, which is seek first to understand, which involves a very deep shift in our paradigm. We are conditioned to typically speaking first to be understood. Most of us listen not with the intent to understand, but with the intent to reply. Think about it. And I am guilty of that too. I have also done it multiple times. When somebody is talking to us, we are looking to respond to them, and we are in a hurry, and it's like, yeah, I got it, what you're saying, what you need to do about this is. And that is what is the mistake we commit, because we seek to be understood first, or we have communication like, no, first listen to me, listen to what I am saying first. No, you are not getting it. When we get into this line of communication, we are not seeking to understand the person. We are first making an attempt that the world understands us. And if everybody starts doing that, there's going to be no communication. It's something like another example which I'll share with you. So you go to a doctor and you're not keeping well. You have some slight fever and a sore throat, and you want to turn some kind of a body ache, and you want to talk to the doctor about it. The moment you enter the room, the doctor says, aha, I see what is your problem, and diagnoses it and prescribes you the medicine. What would be your reaction to that doctor? You would, of course, say, Doctor, you have not even heard what my ailment is. How can you prescribe a medicine or give a diagnosis? Doctor will say, no, no, the previous person who came before you was walking and talking exactly like you. So I know it's the same diagnosis. So I'm going to prescribe the same medicine. Will it instill confidence in you about that doctor? Of course, no. Will you ever go back to him? I am sure no. Will you ever recommend that doctor to anybody else? Of course, now, not at all. So now, put yourself in the position of that doctor. If someone is coming to you to discuss a situation or a problem, will it help them or build trust if you start prescribing a solution without actually first understanding the issue? Hence, we need to practice empathic listening. Hear out the person share his or her situation. Take a pause. Once they have finished their side of the story, take a breath, try to absorb what they have said. Probably then ask relevant questions, and then, only if you can, then offer any kind of remedy. Emphatic listening is in itself a big deposit in the emotional bank account. So, to practice emphatic listening, we need to first understand and work to avoid typical four kind of responses, and those four types of responses are generally termed as autobiographical responses. So first, what we do through our response is we evaluate. That is, we either agree or disagree with the situation. Of course, this is based on a personal experience and exposure. So we evaluate. Next, else we start to probe. That is, we ask questions from our frame of reference. It needs to fit in our scheme of things. Or we tend to advise. That is, try and counsel the person based on our experience. Or we tend to interpret. That is, we tend to figure out people, their motives, their behavior based on our personal motives and behaviors. We tend to do this all the time with everyone, even our children, as we are always trying to impose our concepts and ideas on our children, especially when it comes to teenagers and young adults. So, in fact, this is something very interesting which I was reading in the book, where this particular communication is what the author talks about. Um, he says that a lot of times when we are speaking to our children, what happens is we get small one-liner responses like, if you ask your son, how's it going? The answer generally is, fine. Well, what has been happening lately? Nothing. So, what's exciting in school? Not much. And what are your plans for the weekend? I don't know yet. Whereas that same son would be talking for hours and hours together on the phone or in person with their friends. But then, why do they respond in one word or two words to the parents? So, this is how sometimes as parents we tend to make some mistakes while interacting with our kids, because we forget to do empathic communication with them. So here is an example, keeping in mind the four autobiographical responses that we generally have. So here is a son reaching out to the father, and he says, Dad, I have had it. School is for the birds. The father says, what's the matter, son? So he's probing. Okay. Son says, it's totally impractical. I don't get a thing out of it. So the father says, well, you just can't see the benefits yet, son. I felt the same way when I was of your age. I remember thinking what a waste some of the classes were, but those classes turned out to be the most helpful to me later on. Just hang in there, give it some time. This is advising. Even before we have understood the problem, we have gone into the mode of advising the child. So the child continues, I've given it 10 years of my life. Can you tell me what's good plus y is going to be to me as my if I want to be an auto mechanic? Basically saying that if I do x plus y all the time, how is it going to help me in my career? And if I want to be an automatic mechanic, so the father is an auto mechanic. You got to be kidding me. You are evaluating the child already, right? So now if we um, go to the other side of the communication, that's what I'm taking out, that how can you change this communication, which is by when you seek first to understand. So here. So when the boy says, Dad, I've had it. School is for the birds. What is the child saying? I want to talk with you and I want to get your attention. So what should be an empathic response? Are you really frustrated about school? So in essence, what the child hears is you're saying, okay, I get it. You're not feeling good about school. So go on. So the child gets the uh, green signal in his head to talk more. So he's like, I am sure I'm totally impractical. I'm not getting a thing out of it. So the father's like, oh, so you think the school is not doing any good for you? So what the father is doing is repeating the sentence of the son so that he understands the world his son is in better, and reinforces that he understands what the son is trying to say. So the son says, well, yeah, I just not learning anything that's going to be of help to me. I mean, look at Joe. So he suddenly, so last time when we heard earlier, he said, X plus Y is not going to make me a great mechanic, right? Instead, he's opening up already. He says, look at Joe. He dropped out of school and he's working on cars and he's making money. Now that is practical, right? Um, so the father, again, instead of trying to advise, says, you feel that Joe really has the right idea. So he's probing in a different way. He's just getting the son to open up. There is no judgment involved over here. So the son further talks, well, I guess he does in a way. He's really making money now, but in few years, I bet he'll probably be ticked off at himself. So the father says, you think Joe's going to feel that he's made a wrong decision? So then now you can understand the way the communication is shifting and changing. Whereas in our eagerness to help our kids, we tend to sometimes alienate them, and that is when communication closes. It won't be wrong to say that a lot of times we have an element of judgment with our kids or with any person who is sharing their situation with us. When we do this, we are not actually seeking to understand. The key is to understand this pattern in our own self and work towards moving away from this. So let's take another example of work example. So there was this real estate person who had made a pitch of a really big, luxurious bungalow to a prospective client. There were a lot of offers, counter offers. However, things weren't working out. So One day, this particular client, prospective client, told him that why don't you come over to my place and we'll see what we can do about it. The prospective client was staying in a different city, so this real estate consultant flew down, went to his office, and there he saw a battery of people sitting with this person. So there was this potential customer, his lawyer was there, another interior designer was sitting over there was another consultant sitting there, and that made this real estate consultant quite nervous. However, he had put a lot of effort in working with this client, so he just didn't want to give it up just like that. And during the conversation, he realized they were not going anywhere, and he knew he was on the verge of losing that client, and that would be a big hit for him. So the real estate consultant thought that now I don't have anything to lose. For me, this order is already gone out of my hand. So let me try do something different. So he just took a deep breath and then requested the prospective client to give him private 5 minutes. When that happened, the client agreed, and they went into a corner, and a person, the real estate consultant, just said that, you know what, I don't get it. Can you please explain to me what exactly are you trying to get at? What do you want? And which place are you coming from? And that made the potential client start sharing the certain things he was looking for. And that is when the consultant realized that probably he was not sharing the things in the right language, because he had not attempted to understand the customer first. And that was a huge mistake. And when this happened, even before the real estate consultant could make a pitch, because he had thought that the deal is anyways over, so he heard the side of the potential client and kept quiet. The potential client excused himself, went on to dial his wife, and said, you know what, I think we have got a deal, and we would be picking up that particular luxurious building. The real estate consultant was shocked that what happened. What had happened? I am sure by now all of you have understood that he ended up making a huge deposit in the emotional bank account of his prospective client, and that is what led to closing that deal. Everybody would come over to make a pitch to the client. Nobody really tried to attempt to really understand what he was looking for. And this is where our guy was different, and he was able to close this long pending deal. This is the power when we seek to understand. Now, it is important that we continue to work in this area. We continue to work to listen, to actually hear what the other person is saying from the intention of understanding them, not responding. So, this now brings us to the second part, or the other side of habit number 5, which is seek to be understood. Now, this is an equally critical part of the habit, because this is the part which helps us reach a win-win situation. Now, when you present your ideas clearly, specifically, visually, and most important, contextually, you increase the significance of your ideas. Let me share another example with you. In one of the organizations, so when I was working in the corporate world, so there was one of the organization I worked there, and there was a particular difficult client with the history of not closing the deal. So we were at a juncture where the deal was very important for the future of our department. I had joined the organization only recently and I got to know the situation. I was briefed about it. So I was requested to take this up and see what I could do about it. I went ahead and requested for an appointment with the client, which he promptly gave me, which was his way of dealing. He was very open to meeting people and talking to them. And so this time also it was no different. He was very easy to get an appointment with. So I walked out of the meeting after meeting him with a signed deal in place. Now you would say, what happened? Well, I did not prepare any presentation. So I was given the entire brief in my company with all that, what was told to him, how presentations were made to him. I had learned everything. I decided not to prepare any presentation. I just did my research on the company and the individual I had to meet. I sat in front of him, and instead of launching how we could help him and do this for them and the benefit we could provide, I started asking him what was he seeking. Once he shared his point of view and requirements, I used his language, terms from his share, and in context of what he had told me, made an offer. He was silent for a minute and then smiled. He, after that, shared that till date, no one had asked him what was he looking for, and I was the first one to do that. So I had made a huge deposit in the emotional bank account, and yes, the book had helped me. I had read the example of the real estate consultant in the book, and I went with the same attitude for the meeting. And that is what made all the difference for me. And once, when I had understood what he was looking for, in that context, shared what I had in mind, which was understood well, and hence the deal closed. It was a win-win, and we served the client for multiple renewals after that. So that is the power this book has. If we are able to follow and practice the learnings of this book well, we will gain a lot of insight, and we will gain ways to do better and be effective both in our personal life and professional life. So here's something more for us. This is a quick chart which talks about how to be an effective manager. As you can see, um, a mediocre manager will jump in and solve problems quickly. They see things, okay? And they tend to have a candid atmosphere. They are helpful, however they are not practical at many points. Whereas when it comes to an effective manager, they take their time to understand the real issues and give people candid feedback after due consideration. They practice empathic listening and give honest and accurate feedback to the person who has come to them for any kind of a situation. This particular image actually makes the understanding very easy. We need to learn to listen, to understand, have empathy, be cooperative, caring, have a positive attitude, that is, be non judgmental about what is being told to us. Have a problem solving attitude and try and give solutions if possible. Then, when we have understood the other person, when we have seeked to understand them, it is important that we seek to be understood too. So, habit 5 is powerful as it works right in the middle of our circle of influence. If you look at all these points. These are action points which we can take, and we are not dependent on somebody else. Many factors in the interdependent situation are in your circle of concern and out of your control. However, when we seek to understand, we move in a circle of influence. As we understand better, more things become in our control. That is when we can create real difference and ensure overall effectiveness. When we really deeply understand each other, we open the doors to multiple possible solutions, with a lot of creative solutions and third alternatives. Our differences are no longer the stumbling block. Instead, the differences become the stepping stone to synergy. Understand one thing clearly: at no point are we saying change yourself and become a replica of the other person. No, understand them. That is the key. In fact, there are a lot of stories I can go on and on and on about, where the mistake of not understanding first was made, and in that case how things went haywire. However, there is a personal input I would like to give over here. Is when we started talking about the principles of empathic communication, the word for me, the key word is communication. There are a lot of times in our life, in different kind of relationships, what we tend to do is stop communicating. There are times when we feel that we are not being understood, then what we do is we go silent. And that is not the right way to be. Yes, silence is a type of communication, I agree, but the best thing is to continue to stay in your circle of influence, because when you go silent, you move to your circle of concern, where you are then dependent on other person to understand why you're silent, and probably come back to you, ask you questions, etc., etc. So continue to work in your circle of influence. So communicate, and communicate some more. I think if there's miscommunication, it is still fine. You communicate more and you will be able to win over that miscommunication also. Just keep in mind that when you're dealing with other people, you need to deal from the point of view of think win-win and seek to understand them and then understood. So when we do that, we build a better synergy, and synergy is part of the next habit. So this week, let's work to understand our responses and seek to understand others. So this is going to be the activity for the week. Watch ourselves and see if we are listening to understand or respond. When we learn to truly understand, we move towards synergy. And that is what I said is going to be the topic next time. However, before we close, here are my contact details. Like I always say, you can always write to me at Rashie, Rashie at gmail.com, or at Rashie, Rashie at theyellowcarcompany.com. And I will be happy to answer all your questions like I've been doing for last few weeks. And now I have opened a new channel of communication too. Like I shared in the beginning of today's episode, I've created a group within the Facebook page for all those who are interested in creating a lasting impact in their life through these habits. I have shared the link in the group. Please join it using that. Do join it, and we'll continue to discuss these 7 habits in the group. Any questions you have, you can ask me over there, and you could also seek to clear your doubts, and I will be happy to help. So, see you next week once again with another episode of my interpretations of 7 habits of highly effective people, and also see you on the Facebook group I just spoke about. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day.